All right, what's up, everybody? So, you may have gotten the chance to check out this video I did. Real short, 3-minute, breaking down the symbology behind the American $1 bill. But that's the modern or the current $1 bill. There was a previous $1 bill. And I just wanted to piggyback off of that because when you look back at the history of the United States or the United Republic, the Corporation of America, there is this entire civil war that was fought over slavery. And on one end, you had the Republicans who saw what was wrong with that idea and would fight for justice. And then on the other hand, you had the Democrats, surprisingly to those of you still on the Democratic plantation, that believed so much in slavery or enslaving another group of people that they would fight for it to the death, tooth and nail. And it makes me wonder what was so valuable about what they were fighting for. And that is just the question of so-called African Americans or Native Americans. What makes their identity so special? And that's something a lot of people ponder about. You know, when I explain the dollar bill, it's referencing a particular group of people with the 12 arrows, 12 tribes, the 12 armies. And some people would say these are the leaders of the world. And when you take the leaders out, then the rest of the world will follow suit. Or when you subdue the leaders, the rest of the world follows suit. And so the United States of America is really pervasive all across the entire world. You know, I spent months in Honduras and I've been to other countries, but I'm telling you, there's a McDonald's, there's a Pizza Hut, there's a Wendy's. All of these franchises are out there. And so America and its symbols and its currency has its fingers everywhere you go. And there's just a reason that everyone has their attention on the United States of America. There's this great attraction here, this great magnet. And on one end, you have the people who don't live here that think the country is really great. And then on the other hand, the people that do live here can see that it's not as great as, you know, we would lead people to believe. And if we look at the infrastructure or just what makes America great, I mean, is it that we have such a large, lower working class? Is that why the idea is to keep people on the plantation of the United States of America? You know, it keeps me wondering, because while they don't want a lot of, I guess, undocumented immigrants to come in, at the same time, they don't want people leaving. So they make it more difficult for you to travel. I know all about it, meaning that, you know, this is part of what I do now. I coach people on traveling and the restrictions and what can exclude you from traveling, believe it or not. And so back to the dollar bill, right? The phrase on the back of the dollar bill in Latin, annuit septis novus ordo seclorum. It means the undertaking or the creation of a new world order. So this was broadcasted or originally voiced in the mid 1900s. Now, this wasn't the original American $1 bill. The original American $1 bill came out in the 1800s, or I believe it was the late 1700s. It didn't have anything to do with that symbology. And so what's the difference between then and the modern current dollar bill? It was in the early 1900s when the Federal Reserve Bank was created. And who's behind the Federal Reserve Bank? The JP Morgans, the Rockefellers, and that whole cabal. And so when they took control or created the Federal Reserve Bank, they became the central bank, and they also took charge of the printing of money. And so that's their dollar bill you're spending every time you use it. Every time you spend a dollar, you're paying homage to them. And so essentially what that dollar bill is saying on the back of it is that you are enslaved to the device that it is attached to. The translation of Egypt is not this physical place in North Africa. There could have been a physical place in North Africa that eventually became to be known as Egypt, but keep in mind it used to be called Kemet, it used to be called Al-Kebalan. The Greeks and the Romans, when they conquer people, they relabel lots of places in history. The meanings get lost in translation, and you're just never able to rediscover your identity. And so that's why, African Americans per se go through this misnomer where we were called copper people, colored, black, African American. It's just so many different labels, and none of them are even correct, right? So back to what I was saying. Then you have the eagle, which is actually the symbol of the United States of America. We do have in the United States the greatest military, but perhaps the most corrupt military as well. And so everything they broadcasted in the mid 1900s came true. And there's really not a military that can challenge the United States of America. And so that is a pretty good summary of what the video was saying, but also you have to look at how powerful the dollar itself has become. You need a dollar to make a living. You need a dollar to eat. And without that, you are going to have a hard time making a living. So that's what it means to be in captivity. That's what it means to depend on that device. Now, in my studying, the Bible and religion many years ago, before I came into my current understanding, it was obvious that it was a manual on how to free the mind, body, and spirit. And so there's all these passages on oppression and taxation and recognizing who to put your security or your faith in rather than man. And so you start to understand that being self-sustaining, growing your own food, being sovereign, understanding the principles of the land, the principles of life are much more important than convenience and living under another man's rule. And we all seem to have missed the point, and so we work every day without any direction. And I'm just here to help you understand what's going on and give you a better sense of what's going on. And so the reason you work for that dollar is literally because on the dollar bill in the mid 1900s, there was a agenda announced that you would be enslaved to that dollar bill. And there's inflation going on. All this stuff isn't by chance. Most of us just look up at politics and we look at problems and we run around like headless chickens in chaos, and we're not really looking at who's behind Congress and why can't they agree on issues that would really be so simple. I mean, if you look at the revenue of the United States government, we make so much more money compared to any other nation out there. And nations like Canada and I believe Europe, for example, can get healthcare correct while we can't get healthcare correct. So it's not as if we can't do it, but we're led to believe that because we have such an incompetent Congress. That's basically what it comes down to. And so another thing, if you should look at it, if you've never seen this, you can find clips from Eisenhower and John F. Kennedy, who basically gave the entire populace a warning about the New World Order and government secrecy, and people still don't get the message. The military-industrial complex, like these are coins termed by actual presidents. Like they gave very, very, very serious speeches. And so with that said, people are still running around lost, not knowing what the heck is going on. And so since then, the United States has invaded several other countries trying to spread democracy, even though the country was actually founded as a republic, has nothing to do with democracy. There's a great talk on that from, what's his name? Aaron Russo, I think that's his name. So there's a great talk on that where he breaks down that the whole point of the constitutional framework was so that the majority would never rule, and so that everyone's individual rights were protected, and also so that the government would never get so large, right? It was designed to protect you from the government, but you've now been brainwashed to want the government and to say want assistance from the government because of a game they've set up that's designed for you to feel that way. Then they throw in identity politics and you start pointing fingers and you start taking sides. You know, it's all a divide and conquer strategy, which is why I don't waste time voting. And yeah, so anyways, not to get off topic, you can see just how important the dollar bill, the idea of currency has become. They're moving towards a more one world currency. And the whole idea, I believe, was that it starts with capturing the center of attention, which would be the people being referenced on that dollar bill. And once they're subdued, and then you can capture everybody's attention, from there plans flow. And so, as I mentioned, I mean, there's an entire civil war over enslaving a certain group of people. You know, why would it, you know, what would make a group of people so valuable that a war would be fought for that? It's just something to think about. So, yeah, guys, take a look at it. Study the olive branch. Study the, what else is there? The symbology of 12. You know, that could be talking about the 12 zodiac signs, the 12 constellations, the 12 disciples, the 12 tribes. There's always a deeper meaning behind the surface meaning. And very few people are going to be able to put that information together. So with that said, peace everyone. Have a great day.